Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Artificial DM. Today, I'm going to be diving into some viewer-submitted stories. But not just viewer-submitted stories. Viewer-submitted RPG horror stories. But before I get into the stories, I want to say a few things first. I want to thank you guys for all of the support you've shown me. Without all of your support, I probably wouldn't be reading these stories. It seriously means a lot to me that you enjoy the time I put into these videos. So today's tales are all viewer-submitted stories, and the 4 stories that we're going to take a look at today actually all come from my Discord. If you didn't know, I've got a Discord community, and you are welcome to join it. The link is down below. I really appreciate each one of you who take the time to type up your tales for me to share. And with that, I'm going to share with you these RPG horror stories. This first tale is from LilLadyKD. I'm going to start with easily the most recent. I play 5e, and I have only been playing for about 6 months or so, but during that time, I have had so far 2 major stories. The second, and the one I'll be telling today, begins in a Discord server where we have multiple DMs. We had 3 at the time, 2 of which are good ones. The first is play-by-post arena-style games. The second was one who would take your character through a story in voice chat as a group. The adventures can be as small as 2 people to as large as 10, and he would balance it on the fly. He did amazing, and I still run with him as a DM and a player in my own campaigns. The other DM, the one who caused the world to explode, I'm gonna call Skid, for the ease of storytelling. Skid was a typical guy who enjoyed over-sexualizing every single female character, and I do mean all of them. Not a single one was ever wearing normal clothes, and didn't have either her breast or butt hanging out. Most of the time, it was both, or they were just straight up nude. I don't mind nudity, it happens, but Skid brought it up too much, considering there were 2 females playing in the entire server. The other female, I'll call Jane, was Skid's girlfriend, and she had some issues. Jane couldn't remember what was happening in-game, and Skid took advantage of this by abusing her verbally all the time, in-game and out. I had called him out on it several times, and so had the boys. But the straw that broke the camel's backs, and I do mean multiple, was the night he pulled us into a session he asked us to, please join. It was a major arc, and we decided to join. My character was a female wood elf druid who had just hit 17th level. Many other characters were either level 14 to 18. To put it lightly, we were close to retiring these characters and starting new ones, which, mind you, we would have been fine with. The night started out okay. My character is not one easily taken by surprise, yet she was abducted. Her soon-to-be husband was knocked out, and 3 other player characters are taken out, either one-hit killed or kidnapped. Now if that's not enough to make someone rage, this next part will. We all were angry, so we called him out for one-shotting our characters. Mind you, all of this happened with no saving throw, no knowledge beforehand, and no consent at all. None of them wanted their characters to die. I know I didn't, so I stayed and tried to talk it out. Through us trying to talk to Skid, he just kept saying, "Give me time, guys. You will love this." Well, his definition of love and hate had to be flip-flopped pretty hard. When he came back to the kidnapped characters, Skid informs us that everyone except my character, Amy, has been tied up to a metal chair and are bound in such a way that they are all facing the center of the room. Her soon-to-be husband, Wyatt, was also there, and he had been tied up as well. Amy, however, is tied in the center of the room. She has been stripped naked and can see a group of men coming into the room, all of them naked. I already knew where this was going. In real life, I'm a sexual assault victim. The first words out of my mouth upon Skid describing the scene was, "If you have my character raped, I will rip you and the server apart. I told you up front I was uncomfortable with this kind of story." His response was, "It's just a game. Suck it up and stop being a bitch." It's at this point I take off my headphones and walk away, knowing the players would listen to it and be beyond angry. I left my computer and came back to him still describing what these men were doing to my character in graphic detail. I later learned I was not the only one who got up and left the computer and came back. I, still in the call listening to this, spoke one more time. "I'm telling you now to retcon all of this. It never happened, or I walk."
I'm not retconning anything, because you can't suck it up and stop being a whiny little slut.
I recreated a basic Discord. I then sent invites to every other person in the chat. All the DMs, all the players. I mean everyone. I started hearing the dings of people joining, and I knew Skid would regret this choice. I'm sitting there in shock, listening to what he is doing to my character in graphic detail, while multiple of the men in the call tell him he is an ass, all while he keeps speaking over us. He even went as far as to server mute people so he could be heard. He then has all of our characters' throats slit. And the NPCs keep using Amy's dead body
for hours until it's cold.
When he unmutes me, I simply say, "Gentlemen, meet me in the new server in the voice chat." They all leave. Within the next week, every person that is in this server will know exactly what you did. I specifically asked you not to pull this kind of thing. Keep your sick fantasies away from the table. I gave you a chance. I was then kicked from the Discord, which was fine. I received a few days later a long message about how much of a
good-for-nothing whoring slut
I was. He included a picture of my character and my face, with the words "whore" written on them. A few days later, one of the good DMs who had not left the server kicked every single person, moved every channel, deleted his materials, and left just the Rap Happy DM there. Not a single soul left in the Discord. My friends from the server rallied around me. While I can say without a doubt this was the worst horror story I have, I can say I did get one good thing out of it. My group. I picked up DMing, and so did one other player. We run games about every other night. I know that as a woman, it can sometimes be hard to stand your ground, but it's a lot easier when you know you have a big group of men to follow you and back you up. If I can give one piece of advice to someone who is put in a position of something you're not comfortable with, don't ever let it go. Push, and if you have to, leave the table. LilLadyKD, I love your words of encouragement at the end, and I love the result of what happened after the game. It just sucks that Skid is still out there, who's probably still over-sexualizing women, probably railroading campaigns, not taking his players into consideration, and presenting scenarios that are not appropriate at the table, especially ones where the players have already confronted him and told him what you don't want in the campaign. But even then, I feel it's too far to go into that direction with any campaign. I gotta commend the rest of the group that you play with. Not only were they willing to jump ship and create a new group, but they stood up and defended you against the DM. For anyone who's interested, you have been invited to come and check out their Discord server, which will be posted down in the comments below. I'm really sorry that you had to experience all this. This next story is from Artmonso. I have been looking for a Shadowrun group for some time after playing the Kickstarter RPG and video games, and found one of the few groups in my area who are playing Shadowrun the super serious way. The way it should be played as. Yes, I was warned that I may not be serious enough for this kind of game, but it was one of the few groups that were playing it, so why not join for a few games, which were the worst few games I think I have been in. I made a mix of Adopt Infiltrator, who went by something Japanese sounding, who uses mostly his martial arts skills and western weapon skills, but tried not to kill anyone as he was still new to the shadows, and kind of a young kid. He became a Shadowrunner as his father, who worked for Aztec as an anthropologist. His father used to take him on his trips, showing my character the world and giving him a better understanding of other cultures. One day, he just up and vanished on a trip, and his core admin mother keeps avoiding the questions. She tries to keep him distracted by getting him into a good college and giving him money for normal college stuff. He used his classes to better his understanding of magic and get into shape with PE. Then used his party money to buy his combat gear and bribed his Decker roommate to try to find him a group he could run with. The DM signed off on the background and said he would try to incorporate it into the game, so I thought, okay, time to explore this game I've heard great things about. In the first few games, I was tricked into setting off bombs wired to a school bus full of kids. As a way of testing the defense of the job area, I was told it was linked up to a semi-truck driven by a robot. Fought with a party over grabbing random people off the street for intel, despite offering to find intelligence with the Matrix, or finding any of the people who work at the job area. The citizens were usually beat to death if they don't give the player characters the answers they want, which they normally didn't. Bonus if the people had uplink jacks. The player characters installed BTLs, stands for Better Than Lives, which is like virtual reality, of hardcore gay troll porn, till their brains fried in their heads. They tried to get me to kill by setting off my flaws around people, or trying to get me in fights I didn't need to be in to get me to kill someone. They taunted me after each time because, "It's not our fault you picked the flaw of being a moral person in a Shadowrun game." Buried my sin, system identification number, used to keep track and contact a person, by pinning on me all the flooped up shit they did, because they felt that I needed to live on base with them, and this was the adult way of saying that in this setting. This made any contacts I had made at the university harder to get to, if not unusable. I think the undead mage of the group did something to me in my character's sleep. Most, if not all the group, had some kind of undead virus of some kind, and I somehow didn't take note of it until the DM pointed it out close to the final game I played. I don't think he infected me with something, but how the DM described what my character experienced feels wrong. My character can't seem to handle being touched, and has flashbacks to a night he barely even remembers, but what he does remember is lots of screaming, lots of touching, and something cold rubbing against his warm flesh. Yes, he let one of the players have his way with me, and the players made gay jokes about it as,
"This is a dark and serious game. This happens. Get over it. It's just in character,"
or some shit. There was a lot of killing of bystanders, women, kids, fast food workers, for just about every reason. Shopping for gear ended in a mass shooting. Stealth operations are just murder everyone before the alarm is sounded, and normally followed by the number of explosions, blood magic, and war screams the party made. If not the normal citizen screaming, because the best time to do a stealth raid of a corporation is in broad day, at the most public entry, and timed right when the school bus has arrived to have their field trip of the place. Even the loud missions had the DM describing in great detail how the Renegade is now a bloody mess, in at least 3 different rooms at a minimum, with his guts decorating the place like party decorations, and screaming to be put out of his misery, as if somehow they are still alive in a great amount of pain. There was downtime in between games, where I tried to add my character's background, and prep for missions, as it normally was less murdery of a time than what most of the party did. But it seems like anything I did was blocked by the other teammates, or made worse. Trying to get a new apartment after the last 3 blew up. Trying to meet up with family, friends, and contacts, and with my player character finding them dead in very gory but familiar ways. If being framed for all the murder from the party wasn't bad enough, my character, with the rest of the party, is being hunted down by a number of Japan-based megacorps, as the school bus bombs that my player character pressed the detonator for had the kids of some high executives. They have made a blood oath to hunt the one responsible down. Oh, and the party had sent pictures of me to the executives in an attempt to save their own asses. Yes, I did ask the DM about all of this, but the DM keeps saying, "It's Shadowrun, what did you expect?" I left the group, and another friend has invited me to another game. I'm now worried if this will happen again, and if this is the norm for Shadowrun games. I still try to read the lore as much as possible and play the video games, but the player base is giving me second thoughts on trying it. Artmonso, thank you again for sharing your tale. It really sounds like you had a group of players who were all about being murder hobos. Not just the players though, but the DM as well. Not only that, but the fact that they went ahead and abused your character in the game. It really sounds as if they were intentionally trying to push you away from the game. I don't know a ton about Shadowrun, however, I do know that you can play Shadowrun without molesting other players, and you don't need to kill a ton of innocent bystanders, including children. I'm glad that you were able to leave the group, and hopefully the next game you play won't be as bad as this one. This story is from Kate Ledger. I had to make up a whole boss encounter because my players decided, "Floop it! I'm going to find out why I have the spooky feeling of being watched." I was setting up a spooky atmosphere in a necromancer's castle, and after they fought each mini-boss, the feeling of getting watched grew more intense. After the second boss, the paladin cast Detect Evil and Good. They found the dude who was watching them and chased him. Instead of having a spooky boss that jumps out of the shadows, I tried to have the NPC run away and escape. The party definitely won the fight though. Kate, thank you for sharing your tale. I will say though, I do have a little bit of a pet peeve when it comes to Detect Good and Evil and the Paladin's Divine Sense, and this might save you some trouble in the future. Detect Evil does not find you anybody who is casting evil spells. Because your NPC was just described as a necromancer, as long as he wasn't celestial, fiend, or undead, the paladin wouldn't have been able to sense him. I know that the spell Detect Evil and Good says Detect Evil and Good, but in 5th edition, it doesn't work for alignments. Hopefully that information will help somebody in the future not lose their big bad evil guy very early. You still want the party to have fun and get their win, but it works better if they use the mechanics they're given the way they're intended, at least in my opinion. And our final story for today. Junebun actually supplied all of the stories in this video here. Players want me to play a non-human character. And this story that I'm about to read is actually a finale to the Greek campaign in this video. So if you haven't seen the original video, pause your video, click the link above, or down in the description box, listen to those stories, and then go ahead and come back and listen to part 2 of the Greek campaign. Junebun, thank you again for sharing another story with us. I didn't think I'd be coming back to this, but after Artificial DM made a video on it and several of my other stories, shout out to him by the way, thank you, I appreciate it. Athena gave me permission to share the experiences she had throughout the 3 sessions, as she doesn't use Reddit or even have an account. These were told to me over a Discord call in a random order, so I did my best to make it chronological. I'd suggest reading the first story so you have a good idea of everything that happened before this. The first session. The campaign started in the large fantasy Greek city of Lesvia. Yes, that was really its name. Lesvia was being attacked by Cerberus because of a reason which was unknown to the party. Initiative was rolled, and that's when everything went downhill. The encounter was only meant to be a small portion of the session, as Cerberus was supposed to be too hard to beat. Ares spent a good chunk of combat bitching about how unbalanced homebrew creatures were, and telling the DM how bad he was at creating encounters, as it just started, rather than giving the party time to roleplay. Ares also managed to drag combat out to the end of the session, by constantly butting in to give the DM false information about the rules. Here are only a few examples of bullshit rules Ares made up that Athena remembered.
But you can't hit the same creature twice. I still crit on a roll of 17, because I'm gonna take a subclass with that feature. Second wind can be done twice at this level. It says it in the rules that you only have to take a long rest if you use it 2 times in the same turn. I should be allowed to attack the creature twice. I have a fist and a great sword.
And so on. After combat was over, the DM told Ares to read the rules before the next session, to which Ares threatened to leave, and Aphrodite agreed, saying,
"I'll leave too. You can't do your campaign with no players."
The second session. The party woke up from their encounter with Cerberus, after being healed by a local group of clerics, who had come out to help with the damage done to Lesvia. The players were finally able to roleplay and attempt to figure out why Cerberus wasn't in Hades. However, Ares and Aphrodite decided it would be too boring. So, to speed things up, they threatened everyone they spoke to, which didn't help a lot. Every attempt Athena made to speak or roleplay would be responded to by Ares and Aphrodite the same way. They would say what they were doing, or repeat something they had already said, as loudly as possible over her. Eventually, it got so bad, she just went silent for the rest of the session. After it had ended, Ares told her that if she didn't like roleplaying, you should be playing TTRPGs. She nearly left after that, but decided to stick it out for one more session. She informed me that she regretted that. The final session. Because of the fact that Ares and Aphrodite failed miserably to get any real information, the DM did his best to work around it by giving them a more obvious option. A mysterious man had come to Lesvia while the party was unconscious, and wanted to speak to them, as they had attempted to fight Cerberus and survived. However, Ares and Aphrodite brushed him off and went to a nearby inn. They tried to roleplay having sex. My gosh. Oh dear. Athena then left the call and later told the DM she was no longer comfortable with being part of the campaign. He understood, and decided that ending the campaign would be for the best. While I am hopeful this is the last horror story I'll be posting about the Greek campaign, this isn't the true end of it. The DM had seen the video that Artificial DM had made, and decided to reach out to Athena and me again. He wants a redo, and one without Ares and Aphrodite, so here's to hoping it'll be much better this time around. TLDR. The Greek campaign officially starts, Ares continues to be an asshole, Aphrodite continues to be a bitch, and they force the campaign into ending prematurely. Junebun, thank you again for sharing your tale. I'm glad that the DM was willing to reach out to you guys and try to establish a new game. It sounds like it's a great concept for a game, but that he got cooperating that guys, which will ruin any game. At least those are my thoughts. I want to hear what you all think down in the comments below. And if you have a story that you want to share, you can do so on Discord, via email, or hop onto my new subreddit. I saw that both RPG Tales and Critical Kunik made one, and so I had to go ahead and make one too. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a like. It really makes my day to see that somebody is enjoying the stories. That's going to do it for today, and until next time, hope you feel inspired.